have Horror Day. The missing hiker. Every year, hikers vanish in the vast wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. Some blame wild animals, others think it's the harsh terrain. But the locals whisper about something darker, something lurking in the woods. David, a 29-year-old freelance photographer, had always loved hiking alone. For him, it was a way to escape the chaos of city life. He often posted his adventures online, where his small but loyal group of followers eagerly awaited his breathtaking photos of untouched nature. In late October, David decided to tackle a remote trail near Mt. Baker, known for its rugged beauty and dense forests. The trail wasn't well marked, but that's exactly what he loved about it. No tourists, no noise, just him and nature. Before leaving, he posted a photo of the trailhead on social media with the caption, "Off the grid for a few days. Catch you all soon." Day 1. The start of the journey. The first day went smoothly. The weather was crisp, and the fall colors painted the forest in shades of gold and red. David made good progress, stopping occasionally to snap photos of moss-covered trees and misty ridges. As night fell, he set up his tent in a small clearing, ate a quick meal, and drifted off to sleep, lulled by the distant sound of a nearby stream. But in the middle of the night, he woke up. It wasn't the usual rustle of animals in the underbrush or the howl of the wind. It was a distinct sound, like someone softly calling his name. "David." His eyes snapped open. The voice was faint, almost carried by the wind, but unmistakable. He sat up in his sleeping bag, heart pounding. "Hello?" he called out, his voice shaky. Silence. He told himself it was just a dream, maybe a trick of his overactive imagination, and forced himself back to sleep. Day 2. Signs of the unseen. The next day, David brushed off the incident and continued his hike. But something felt off. The forest was quieter than usual. No birds, no insects, just the crunch of his boots on the fallen leaves. By mid-afternoon, he noticed the first sign. A tree along the trail had deep, deliberate scratches etched into the bark. They were too large for any animal he knew. He took a photo, thinking it might make an interesting post later. But as he studied the marks, he felt a chill. The scratches weren't random. They formed a strange, almost runic pattern. "Probably just some prank," he muttered, trying to shake the unease. But as he continued, the signs became more frequent. Rocks stacked in strange formations. Twisted branches forming shapes that looked almost human. And then, the footprints. They weren't his. They were large, barefoot, and followed the trail ahead of him. By evening, David decided to camp early. He found a spot near a stream, but couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Night 2, the presence. The second night was worse. David was jolted awake by a loud snap, like a branch breaking underfoot. Grabbing his flashlight, he shone it outside the tent. The beam illuminated the trees, their shadows stretching like long fingers. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice echoing in the stillness. No response. He scanned the area with his flashlight, and that's when he saw it, a figure standing just beyond the tree-line. It was tall, too tall to be a person, and its eyes glinted faintly in the light. David froze. The figure didn't move. He fumbled for his camera, instinctively snapping a photo. When the flash went off, the figure vanished. The rest of the night, he sat awake, clutching his knife, listening to the forest come alive with strange, faint whispers. Day 3. Desperation. David decided to cut his trip short and head back. But the trail looked different. Trees he didn't recognize, paths that seemed unfamiliar. By noon, he realized he was hopelessly lost. His GPS wouldn't load, and his phone showed no service. As he retraced his steps, he found something that made his stomach drop. His own tent from the night before, fully intact, as if he'd never left. "I've been walking in circles," he whispered to himself, panic rising. But then he noticed something else. The tent was surrounded by footprints, barefoot, large, and circling it like a predator sizing up its prey. The final night. That night, David didn't bother setting up camp. He kept walking, hoping to find the trailhead or a sign of civilization. As darkness fell, the whispers returned. This time, they were louder, coming from all directions. "David?" He broke into a run, his flashlight bouncing wildly. The whispers turned into guttural growls, and then he heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, and close behind. When he dared to look back, he saw them. Dozens of figures emerging from the trees, their eyes glowing faintly, their forms twisted and unnatural. David ran until he tripped and fell, his camera skidding across the ground. He scrambled to grab it, snapping one final photo as the figures closed in. The flash illuminated their faces, pale, elongated, and filled with a hunger that wasn't human. Epilogue. Weeks later, hikers found David's abandoned camera near the trailhead. The last photo was blurry but unmistakable, a crowd of inhuman figures surrounding him in the dark. David was never found.